Picture a quiet courtroom in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. A retired chemistry professor in a white sari stands before two judges. Her hands come together in a namaste. Her voice is steady yet strained. The judge asks if she is indeed a professor of chemistry. She nods and answers yes. Then she begins to speak like she is back in her lecture hall, but this time her subject is the death of her husband and the science of burns. Her name is Mamta Pathak. She is 63. She taught chemistry at a government college for decades. The man she is accused of killing is her husband, Neeraj Pathak, a 65-year-old retired physician. The allegation is stark. Prosecutors say she gave him sleeping pills, then used electricity to end his life in their home in Chhatarpur during the pandemic. In the hearing that gripped India, captured on a courtroom video that spread across social media, Mamta tries to dismantle the case against her using the tools she knows best. She insists that a post-mortem cannot cleanly separate thermal burns from electric burns without proper chemical analysis. She quotes forensic texts. She talks about dermal changes and the limits of ordinary examination. She mentions electron microscopy, different acids, and the reactions of tissues. For a few surreal minutes, the courtroom turns into a classroom. Across the bench, Justice Vivek Agarwal listens and responds. He reminds her that the doctor who conducted the autopsy testified that there were unmistakable signs of electrocution. Mamta counters. She says microscopes in a lab can reveal details that a post-mortem room cannot. She points to what she calls gaps in the investigation. She says the house had insulation checks because it was insured from 2017 to 2022, and those inspections showed safety against electrical fires. She questions why qualified electrical experts were not called to the scene. She points to stickers, and pages of notes that she has studied while in prison, where she says she has been learning law for a year. The judges listen. So do the lawyers and spectators. For a while, the tone is almost scholarly. Yet the certainty of science is not the certainty of guilt or innocence. The court is weighing evidence, not only theories. And the evidence, the judges say, points in one direction. Neeraj Pathak was found unresponsive on 29 April 2021 in the family home. The autopsy, done on 1st in May, concluded he died of cardiorespiratory shock due to electrical current at multiple sites. Police seized an 11-meter wire with a 2-pin plug. They obtained CCTV footage from the house. They found a strip of 10 sleeping pills with 6 tablets missing. The prosecution's narrative is simple. She sedated him, then electrocuted him. Mamta pushes back. She notes that her fingerprints were not found on the pill strip. She argues that the real cause was coronary artery disease. She says he had hypertension and heart problems. She suggests he might have slipped and developed a hematoma that was never confirmed because no CT scan was performed. She returns again to the science of burns and the difficulty of labeling a mark as ante-mortem or post-mortem. She challenges the timeline. She highlights what she calls investigative blind spots. But the judges do not look at each point in isolation. They read the pattern. The 97-page judgment lays out a timeline that the court found troubling. Mamta reported finding her husband unresponsive on 29 April, yet the authorities say she did not alert a doctor or the police until 1st May. On that same day, she traveled with her elder son to Jhansi, more than 130 kilometers away, and returned in the evening. The driver told investigators the reason for the trip was unclear. To the court, that delay and detour mattered. Then came the deeper context. The judges wrote about a long and bitter marital discord. They cited accounts that the couple had been living apart within the same home and that Mamta suspected Neeraj of infidelity. On the morning of the day he died, Neeraj allegedly called an associate and said Mamta had been mistreating him. He said she had locked him in a bathroom, kept food from him for days, and caused injuries. He accused her of taking cash, ATM cards, vehicle keys, and fixed deposit papers. The son reached out to a friend who contacted police. Officers then came and escorted Neeraj out from what they described as Mamta's custody. These claims painted a picture of a family at breaking point. Mamta rejects that picture. She portrays herself as a devoted spouse and mother. In court, she holds up a birthday card from her children. She shows photos of herself feeding Neeraj. She shares snapshots with family members. She says she is the best mother. She wants the court to see the woman in those images, not the woman in the charges. The judges are unmoved. Symbols of affection, they say, do not erase motive or negate the weight of circumstantial evidence. A person can be loving in one role and suspicious in another. That duality is not impossible. The question is, what happened in that room, in that house, in those hours? As the hearing stretches past 50 minutes, Mamta's composed facade begins to crack. Her voice wavers. She says she did not kill her husband. She says she cannot bear much more. The exchange turns almost personal. The judge tries a gentle remark, saying she must be used to speaking for long stretches in college. She replies that her classes were 40 minutes long and that her students were like children. The judge quips about her designation. The moment becomes awkward. Then the judge cuts it short. "Do not tell us such stories," he says. The courtroom returns to the hard business of law. To understand how they got here, it helps to remember who they were before all this. For nearly 4 decades, the Pathaks lived what looked like a quiet middle-class life in Chhatarpur, a district known for farms, granite quarries, and small businesses. She taught chemistry for 36 years. He served as a government doctor for 39 years, and later opened a small private clinic in their home after he took voluntary retirement in 2019. They raised 2 sons. One moved abroad, the other lived with his mother. During the pandemic, Neeraj showed COVID symptoms and stayed on the first floor. Mamta and their younger son stayed downstairs. 2 staircases connected his rooms to the clinic area, where half a dozen staff moved between the lab and the dispensary. On paper, it looked like a functional home and workplace. Inside, it was tense. When the case came to trial, the state presented a chain of circumstances: the missing pills, the seized wire, the autopsy findings, the delay in reporting, the alleged history of conflict. The court said the chain was unbroken. Mamta tried to break it with science. She argued about the chemistry of burns, the architecture of skin, the behavior of tissues under heat and current. She said an electron microscope could tell what the eye could not. She said the scene was not processed with the rigor that a forensic lab would demand. She said the house's insulation reports supported her claims. In the end, the judges said those technical points did not create reasonable doubt. Last month, the High Court dismissed her appeal and upheld the life sentence. The panel concluded that Neeraj had been drugged and then electrocuted. The defense's criticisms of the autopsy and investigation did not outweigh the totality of the evidence. The judgment reads like a slow march through every contested fact, ending with a firm conclusion that the prosecution's story fit the known details. The viral clip of Mamta arguing her own case fascinated the public because it showed something rare: an accused person standing alone before the bench, reciting passages from forensic medicine, trying to turn legal scrutiny into a chemistry viva. 3 women lawyers were seen smiling in the background as she explained acids and microscopes. For a moment, it felt like a collision of 2 worlds: the precision of a lab meeting the blunt realities of a criminal courtroom. Yet, legal truth is built on a different foundation. It depends on evidence that fits together and meets a burden of proof. It is not a research seminar. It is a decision about life, liberty, and in this case, a death. The tragedy sits at multiple levels. There is the death of a 60-year-old doctor who had spent a lifetime in public service. There is the fall of a 60-year-old teacher who believed that knowledge could save her. There are 2 sons whose family has been split apart by grief and accusation. There is a town that watched a respected couple turn into the subjects of a criminal saga. And there is a country that watched a clip and debated science, marriage, and justice. What lingers from that courtroom is a paradox. Mamta fought as a chemist, as if precise analysis could dislodge the narrative. She argued she was a caregiver, not a killer. She brought charts, sticky notes, and citations. She studied law in a cell to voice her own defense. Yet the court looked past the confidence and the jargon and returned to what it saw as unshakable facts. A body with electrical injuries, a home where a wire and pills were found, a delay that could not be explained, a marriage that was collapsing under suspicion. In the closing moments of her appearance, Mamta's words were no longer a lecture. They were simple. "I did not kill him," she said. It is the kind of statement that cuts through technical talk and lands in the human heart. But courts do not decide on feeling. They decide on evidence. And the evidence, as the judges wrote, told a different story. So the case is now a portrait of how knowledge and narrative can collide. A professor tried to prove innocence with chemistry. A court measured guilt with circumstantial links that formed a chain. The viral video offered a glimpse of courage or denial, depending on the viewer. The law offered a verdict. In the end, science was a language that could not rewrite what the court believed had already been written.